The principal was still shaking my hand on the stage when my grandson's stepmother grabbed the second microphone, looked straight at me, and said, "Let's be honest. Everyone. This boy succeeded despite his grandmother, not because of her. She couldn't even keep her own daughter alive, so let's not pretend she raised anyone." 200 people in that auditorium went dead silent. My grandson Tyler froze mid-smile, his diploma still warm in his hand. My chest caved in like someone had punched through my ribs. But then I steadied my feet, turned to face her, and said into my microphone, "You might want to sit down, Monica, because I know exactly who you were before you became Mrs. Holloway." Her face turned white as paper. She grabbed the edge of the podium like the floor was about to drop, and in that second, I saw something I had never expected to see in a woman so polished and perfect. Pure terror, because she knew that what I was about to say could destroy every single lie she had built her life on. And the only question running through my mind was this: how far will she go tonight to stop me from telling the truth? But this story doesn't start on that stage. It starts 23 years earlier, in a hospital room that smelled like bleach and heartbreak, where I held my daughter's hand for the last time. My name is Ruth. I was 59 when Tyler graduated, and I had raised him since he was 3 weeks old. His mother, my daughter Elise, died from complications after giving birth. The doctors tried everything. They told me it was rare, that they were sorry, that sometimes the body just gives out. I held Tyler in one arm and signed papers with the other. I buried my only child on a Thursday and became a mother again on a Friday. Tyler's father, Kevin, was there for the first year. He would come by on weekends, hold the baby, bounce him on his knee. But grief does strange things to people. Kevin started drinking. Then he started disappearing. Then one morning, I woke up to a note on my kitchen counter that said, "I can't do this. I'm sorry." He left his son the way you leave a jacket at a restaurant. Just walked away and didn't look back. So it was me and Tyler. I was a school cafeteria worker in Decatur, Georgia. I woke up at 4:30 every morning to make lunches for 300 kids, and then I came home and made dinner for one little boy who called me Nana and thought I was the whole world. Some nights, I was so tired my hands shook when I brushed his teeth. But I read him stories every single night, even when my voice cracked, even when I wanted to collapse. I promised myself one thing: this boy will know he is loved every single day of his life. Tyler grew up gentle and curious. He was the kind of boy who brought home stray cats and cried when the news showed storms destroying houses. He loved science. He would take apart my kitchen radio and try to put it back together. And when it didn't work, he would tape a little note to it that said, "Sorry, Nana. I'll fix it tomorrow." He made me laugh more than anyone ever has. When Tyler was 15, Kevin came back. Just showed up one evening at the door in a nice suit, driving a leased car, smelling like cologne instead of whiskey. He said he had gotten sober. He said he had a good job now in Charlotte. He said he wanted to be in Tyler's life. I looked at this man standing on my porch and I felt two things at once: hope that Tyler might finally have a father, and fear that Kevin would break him the way he broke everything else. I let Kevin visit. Tyler was cautious at first, but kids want to love their parents. It is wired into them like breathing. Within a few months, Tyler started looking forward to Kevin's calls. Within a year, Tyler was spending summers in Charlotte. I told myself this was good. I told myself Tyler deserved a father. Then Kevin married Monica. Monica was 15 years younger than Kevin, sharp and polished, with perfect nails and a smile that never reached her eyes. She worked in medical device sales and made more money than anyone I had ever met. When I first met her, she looked at my shoes, then at my purse, then at my face, all in about 3 seconds, and I could feel her sorting me into a category she had no interest in. She said, "So you're the grandmother. Not nice to meet you. Not Tyler talks about you. Just a label, flat and final." I smiled. "Yes, I'm Tyler's Nana." I raised him. Her eyebrow lifted slightly. "Kevin mentioned that." "Kevin mentioned it because it's true." She didn't respond. She just turned to Kevin and said, "We should go, babe. The reservation is at 7. That was the beginning. Over the next few years, Monica made her position clear, without ever saying it directly. She wanted Tyler in Charlotte permanently. She wanted to be his family, and she wanted me to step aside like an old prop from a play that had moved on to a better production. She never said any of this out loud. She was too smart for that. Instead, she worked in small cuts. She signed Tyler up for expensive summer camps that overlapped with my planned visits. She bought him a car for his 16th birthday and told him it had to stay in Charlotte because of insurance. She would post family photos on social media, her, Kevin, and Tyler with captions like, "Our little family," and never once mention me. Tyler started spending less time in Decatur. When he called, he sounded different, quieter, like someone had turned his volume down. One Thanksgiving, Tyler came home and I noticed he flinched when I hugged him. Not hard, just a tiny tightening in his shoulders, like he had been trained to expect something other than warmth. "Baby, what's wrong?" I asked. He shook his head. "Nothing, Nana. I'm fine," but I could see it in his eyes. Something was happening in that house that he didn't want to tell me. And I knew from raising him that Tyler never kept secrets unless he was protecting someone. Despite everything, Tyler thrived. He got into Georgia State on a full scholarship. He studied engineering. He moved back to Atlanta, and slowly, the boy I raised came back to life. His shoulders relaxed. His laugh returned. He started calling me every Sunday again, and those phone calls felt like water in a desert. Tyler graduated top of his class. His engineering department nominated him for the Dean's Award, which meant a ceremony, a speech, and his name on a plaque that would hang in the building forever. When the school sent me the invitation, I sat at my kitchen table and cried, not because I was sad, because my daughter never got to see this, and because every sacrifice, every 4:30 alarm, every night I fell asleep in my work clothes, had led to this moment. The ceremony was held in the university's main auditorium. 200 guests, faculty in robes, families dressed in their best. I wore a navy blue dress that I had saved 3 months to buy. Tyler met me at the entrance and wrapped his arms around me so tight I could barely breathe. "Nana," he whispered. "Thank you for everything." I held his face. "You did this, baby. Every bit of it." Then I saw Kevin and Monica walking toward us. Kevin looked proud but nervous. Monica looked like she was inspecting the building for flaws. She wore a white dress, heels that clicked on the marble floor, and jewelry that caught every light in the room. She glanced at me and said, "Ruth, you made it. I wouldn't miss it for the world," I said. She smiled thinly. "Of course not." The ceremony began beautifully. The dean spoke about Tyler's achievements. A professor described his senior project, a water filtration system designed for rural communities. People clapped. Tyler's face glowed. I could feel my heart swelling so large I thought my chest might split open. Then came the family acknowledgement portion. The dean invited family members to say a few words. Kevin stood first and said something short and decent about being proud. Then Tyler looked at me and said, "Nana, will you say something?" I walked to the stage slowly because my knees have not been young in decades. I took the microphone and looked at Tyler. "When you were 4 years old," I said, "you told me you wanted to build a bridge to the moon so I could visit whenever I was lonely." The audience laughed softly. "I told you the moon was too far. And you said, 'That's why I need to be an engineer, Nana.' You were 4. I paused. "Today you have a degree that says you can build anything, but the thing you built that matters most is a life full of kindness. And I am so proud of you that I can barely stand." Tyler wiped his eyes. The audience applauded. And then, Monica stood up. Nobody had asked her to speak. The dean looked confused. Kevin shifted in his seat, but Monica walked to the stage like she owned it, took the second microphone from the stand, and said, "I'd like to add something." The room settled. "Tyler is a wonderful young man," she began. "But let's be honest, everyone." She turned toward me. "This boy succeeded despite his grandmother, not because of her. She couldn't even keep her own daughter alive, so let's not pretend she raised anyone." The air left the room. I heard someone gasp. I heard a chair scrape. Tyler's face collapsed like a building falling in on itself. Monica kept going, her voice louder now. Tyler's success came from the opportunities Kevin and I provided, the schools we paid for, the connections we opened. A cafeteria worker from Decatur doesn't produce engineers. Let's be real about that. My hands were shaking. Every person in that room was staring. Some looked horrified, some looked frozen, and my grandson looked like someone had ripped his heart out through his throat. But I did not sit down. I did not cry. I looked at Monica, took one slow breath, and said into my microphone, "You might want to sit down, Monica." Because I know exactly who you were before you became Mrs. Holloway. Her face drained of colour. Her hand gripped the podium. The room went so quiet I could hear the air conditioning humming above us. Kevin jumped to his feet. Ruth, don't. I held up my hand. Not yet. I turned to the dean and said calmly, I apologise for the disruption. May I have 1 minute? The dean, looking stunned, nodded. I faced the audience. I was not going to say this tonight. I came here to celebrate my grandson, but when someone attacks a dead woman who cannot defend herself and lies about a child she never raised, the truth has a right to speak. Monica's eyes darted toward Kevin like she was begging him to do something. Kevin looked paralysed. 14 years ago, I said, before Monica married Kevin, she worked at a medical supply company called Greystone Health in Raleigh. I know this because Kevin told me when they started dating, and I looked her up. Any grandmother would. Monica's jaw tightened. What I found, I continued, was a lawsuit. A sealed lawsuit. Greystone Health had accused an employee of falsifying product safety reports for surgical equipment that was being sent to hospitals across 3 states. The audience murmured. Monica's hand went to her throat. The employee's name in the public filing was Monica Stearns. That was her maiden name. A ripple went through the crowd. I could see people pulling out phones. The case was settled out of court. Monica was terminated. She was required to complete a professional ethics course, and part of the settlement included a non-compete clause that effectively ended her career in Raleigh. That is why she moved to Charlotte. That is why she changed industries. And that is why she has spent the last decade making sure no one remembers who she used to be. Monica's voice cracked. That is a lie! I looked at her. Is it? Because I have the public filing number memorized. Anyone with a courthouse login can pull it up in 5 minutes. The room erupted in whispers. Kevin grabbed Monica's arm. We need to go, but Monica shook him off. Her composure was cracking, and underneath it was something ugly and desperate. She pointed at me and shouted, You bitter old woman! You've been waiting years to ruin me. No, I said. I never planned to say a word. I kept that information because a grandmother protects her grandchild, and as long as you treated Tyler well, I was happy to let your past stay buried. Tyler stood up from his seat. Nana, what is she talking about? What happened? I lowered the microphone and spoke directly to him. Baby, sit down. I will explain everything. But not here. Monica laughed, a wild, unhinged sound. Oh, she'll explain everything. She's been plotting this. She's been jealous of me since the day Kevin and I... Monica. Kevin's voice was sharp now. Stop talking. But Monica was unraveling. She turned to the audience and said, This woman let Tyler live in a house with a leaking roof. She fed him canned soup 5 nights a week. She couldn't afford. I couldn't afford a lot of things, I interrupted, and my voice was steady as stone. But I could afford to stay. I could afford to show up every single day. I could afford to love him without conditions. The room went completely still. Tyler was standing now, tears running down his face. He walked toward the stage, past Kevin, past Monica, and stood next to me. He took my hand and held it. This is my Nana, he said into my microphone. His voice broke, but he kept going. She raised me when nobody else would. She didn't have money, she didn't have connections, she had me, and I had her. And that was enough. Monica's face twisted. She opened her mouth to say something, but a man in the front row stood up. He was older, wearing a university badge. A professor. Ma'am, he said to Monica, his voice calm but firm. I've known Tyler for 4 years. He has talked about his grandmother in every class, every presentation, every project. His senior thesis was inspired by her. The water filtration system? He designed it because his grandmother's neighborhood in Decatur didn't have clean drinking water for 6 months in 2019. So before you tell this room who made Tyler who he is, maybe you should listen to what Tyler has been telling us for years. The audience began to clap. First a few people, then more, then the whole room. Not politely, loudly, with feeling. Some people stood. Monica stepped back from the podium. Kevin reached for her, but she pulled away. Her face was red, her eyes wet, but not with sadness, with fury. She grabbed her purse, turned on her heels, and walked toward the exit. But she stopped at the door. She turned around and pointed at me one last time. You will regret this, Ruth. I will make sure of it. I looked at her across that room full of people who were clapping for my grandson, and I said, I've buried my only child. I've raised her son on a cafeteria salary. I've gone to sleep hungry so he could eat. There is nothing left in this world that scares me, Monica. Especially not you. She stared at me for 3 full seconds. Then she walked out. The auditorium was buzzing. The dean looked like he needed a vacation. Tyler was holding me, his big arms wrapped around my shoulders, and I could feel him shaking. Nana, I didn't know about any of that, he whispered. You didn't need to know, I said. That was my job. Protecting you was always my job. Kevin walked over. His face was grey. He looked 10 years older than he had an hour ago. Ruth, he said quietly. I didn't know she was going to say that. I looked at the man who had left his 3-week-old son on my kitchen counter with a note. Kevin, you never know what's going to happen, and that has always been the problem. He winced. I know I wasn't there. I know I failed. You didn't just fail, I said. Not with cruelty, but with honesty. You chose to leave. And today your wife chose to humiliate the woman who cleaned up your mess. At some point, you have to stop being surprised by the choices people around you make and start taking responsibility for the ones you allow. Kevin's eyes dropped to the floor. Tyler stepped between us. Dad, I love you. But Nana is right. You let Monica treat me like a project instead of a person. You let her erase Nana from every photo, every holiday, every conversation. You let her pretend my mother never existed. Kevin's voice cracked. I didn't mean for it to. I know, Tyler said. But it did. That silence was heavy. It sat between the 3 of us like a 4th person in the room. Then Kevin did something I did not expect. He turned to face the remaining audience. Some people were still in their seats, watching, and he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, my mother-in-law raised my son when I was too broken to do it myself. Everything good about Tyler came from her, and I'm ashamed that it took tonight for me to say that out loud. A few people clapped again, softer this time. It was not the same kind of applause. It was the kind that says, we hear you, and it's about time. After the ceremony, Tyler and I sat alone in the parking lot in my old Camry. The engine was off, the windows were cracked. The evening air smelled like Georgia pine and fresh-cut grass. Nana, why didn't you ever tell me about Monica's past? He asked. I chose my words carefully. Because it wasn't your burden. You were a child dealing with enough. Your father was in and out. Your mother was gone. You needed stability, not more drama. But she treated you so badly. People who feel small inside will always try to make others feel smaller. That's not about me. That's about her. Tyler was quiet for a long time. Then he said, when I was 12, Monica told me that you were too old to take care of me properly. She said I should live with them full time. She said you were holding me back. My chest ached, but I kept my voice even. And what did you say? He looked at me. I said my Nana is the strongest person I know and nobody holds me back. I had to look away for a moment because the tears came fast and hard. You said that at 12? I meant it at 12. And I mean it now. 2 weeks after the ceremony, Kevin called me. His voice sounded hollow. He said Monica had filed for divorce. He said she had been planning to leave for months and was looking for a reason to make it dramatic. He said the Greystone lawsuit had resurfaced online after someone at the graduation posted a video, and Monica's current employer had started asking questions. She blames you, Kevin said. She should blame herself, I replied. I didn't put those words in her mouth on that stage. She chose to attack me. She chose to attack our daughter, who isn't even here to defend herself. All I did was tell the truth. Kevin was silent for a while. You're right, Ruth. I am so sorry. For everything. For leaving. For letting Monica push you out. For not defending Tyler sooner. Sorry is a word, Kevin. What matters is what you do next. I want to be better. Then, be better. Show up. Not with money. Not with gifts. Show up with time. With honesty. With consistency. That's what Tyler needs. That's what he always needed. Kevin said he would try. And to his credit, he did. He started driving to Atlanta every other weekend. He came to Tyler's first job orientation at an engineering firm. He sat in my kitchen and ate my cooking and didn't complain when the air conditioning broke in July. It wasn't perfect. Forgiveness never is. But it was real. And that counted for something. As for Monica, she disappeared from our lives like a storm that passes through and leaves broken branches behind. I heard she moved to Texas. I heard she started over with a new name, new story, new performance. Some people spend their whole lives running from who they used to be. I feel no joy in her downfall. I feel tired for her because living a lie is the most exhausting thing a person can do. One Sunday afternoon, Tyler came over with takeout from the barbecue place I love. We sat on my porch, the same porch where he used to ride his tricycle in circles until he got dizzy and fell over laughing. He said, "Nana," at the ceremony, when she said that about Mom, about you not keeping her alive, I wanted to scream. I nodded. "I know, baby. How did you stay so calm?" I thought about that for a moment. Because anger is loud, but truth is patient. If I had screamed, people would have remembered the screaming. Instead, I spoke clearly, and people remembered the words. Tyler looked at me with those eyes that are so much like my Elise's that sometimes it hurts to look at them. "You know what I'm going to name my first daughter?" he said. "What?" "Elise." I couldn't speak for a while after that. We sat together as the sun went down, eating barbecue and watching fireflies blink in the yard. And I thought about my daughter, about the 23 years I spent raising her son, about the mornings I woke up so tired I could barely see, about the nights I whispered into the dark, "Elise, I hope I'm doing this right." And sitting there with Tyler, with his diploma framed on my living room wall, with his hand resting on mine, I finally knew the answer. The best revenge against people who try to erase you is simply to remain, to keep showing up, to keep loving loudly when the world tells you to be quiet, and to raise a child so well that when someone tries to tear you down, that child stands up beside you and says, "This is my Nana, and she was always enough, and I was enough. I always had been."